I am going to speak about the one thing every person who has ever lived has thought about, and almost no one will say out loud: death. Sit with me. Do not turn away. I am not saying this word to frighten you. An old man does not frighten the young for sport. I am saying it because the old ones knew something about death that the world you live in has forgotten, and I am near enough to the end now that I am allowed to say it. The world told you to run from this word, to fill every quiet hour so you would not hear it walking behind you. But the old ones did not run. They turned around and looked it in the face, the way you would look at a guest who comes to every house, and they learned its name. And once you learn its name, it stops being a thief in the dark. It becomes a teacher. So stay with me. By the time the last of my words leaves you, I want you to hold death the way I hold it now, with less fear, with more weight, and with more love than you walked in with. The first teaching: death is not the enemy. Death is the teacher that gives life its weight. When I was a boy, my grandfather took me out under a maple in the cold part of the year and pointed at the leaves. They had gone gold and red, more beautiful than they had been all summer. And he said to me, "The leaf only turns to fire because it is about to fall. It is not dying ugly, it is dying bright. That color is the whole season pouring itself out at once, because it knows there is no more time to save any of it." He said, "A man is the same. The one who knows his days are counted is the one who finally lets his color show." I knew a man named Walter. For 60 years, Walter lived gray. He worked, he worried, he kept his words small and his heart smaller, always saving himself for a someday that never came. Then a doctor sat him down and gave him 1 year. And I will tell you, that was the year Walter turned gold. He told his son he loved him for the first time. He sat on his porch and watched the whole sun go down instead of half of it. He forgave an old friend over the telephone and wept doing it. People said, "How sad, his last year." But I knew Walter. It was his first. That is the gift death hides in its hand. It tells you that this hour will not come again, and that is the only thing that has ever made an hour precious. A man who believed he had forever would never look twice at a sunrise. He would let 1,000 of them pass and notice none. It is the counting, the knowing that the well is not bottomless, that turns ordinary water into something a man kneels down to drink. My grandmother used to say it plain. She said, "Nothing is precious that does not end. The sunset is holy because it leaves. So is your life." And then she would smile and say, "Do not waste your one autumn wishing it were still summer." The second teaching: the fear of dying is really the fear of not having lived. Watch a river. It runs and runs, and it is sure of itself until it comes near the sea. And then it slows. It widens. It seems almost afraid, as if the sea will swallow it and it will be nothing. But the old ones knew the truth of the river. The sea does not destroy the river. The sea is the river made whole. Every drop the river ever carried is still there. Only now it is part of something too large to be afraid in. Most people are not afraid of death. They are afraid they will reach the sea and find their river was empty, that they ran their whole life and never once stopped to taste the water. There was a woman named Ruth who carried that fear like a stone in her chest. She would lie awake, and the fear of the end would press down on her until she could not breathe. So one night I told her, "Do not count the days you have left. Count what you have already touched. Count the children you raised, the bread you broke, the hand you held when no one else would hold it." And she began to count. And somewhere in the counting, the stone got lighter, because she saw that her river had not been empty at all. It had been full the whole time. She had only been too busy running to look down and see it. If you fear the end, do not run faster. Live deeper. The well-lived life does not fear the sea. The third teaching: you must know what is truly lost and what is not. Sit close for this one, because it is the one the world gets wrong. Watch a fire burn down to nothing. The wood is gone. You cannot deny it. The wood is truly gone. returned to smoke and ash and gone up into the sky. But ask yourself, was the warmth a lie? Were the faces it lit a lie? No. The wood ends. The warmth it gave was real, and the warmth went into you, and it is in you still on a cold night long after the fire is cold. The old ones believed that a person is like that fire. The body is the wood. It returns. It goes back to the earth and the sky the way it always was going to. But the warmth, the love, the thing that sat across from you and knew your name, that does not burn up, it went somewhere. It went into the people who sat near it. My friend Eli buried his wife after 50 years, and in his grief he believed she was simply gone, erased, taken from the world entire. But the months turned, and Eli began to notice. He would catch himself humming her songs without choosing to. He would be kind to a stranger and hear her voice in his own kindness. One evening he told me, "I have been wrong. The grave took her body. It did not take one single thing she put in me." He said, "I thought I lost her. I only lost the place I used to find her. She herself never left. That is what is truly lost, and what is not. The body returns. The love does not leave. It only changes the place where you find it. Now stay right here. Do not drift away." The next teaching is the one I most need you to hear, because it is the one you can still do something about tonight. Everything I am sharing with you, and 20 teachings more, are gathered in a small book my family helped me put together. It is in the place below this video for anyone who wants to sit with it longer, but the words are free, and they are yours, so stay with me. The fourth teaching: make your peace and finish the unfinished before the light goes. My grandfather farmed his whole life, and he taught me about the frost. He said, "The field does not care about your good intentions. When the first frost comes, what you have not planted will not grow, and what you have not gathered will rot. So you do not wait. You clear the field and you set the seed while the ground is still warm, because the frost gives no warning the day it decides to come. A life is a field with a frost coming, and most men farm it like the cold will never arrive." There were 2 men I knew. The first was Samuel. Samuel had one sentence he needed to say to his father. 3 words, really. He carried them around for 30 years, always meaning to say them at the right moment, when things were calm, when it was easier. The frost came for his father one ordinary Tuesday with no warning at all, and Samuel stood at the grave holding 3 words that now had nowhere to go. He told me, "The heaviest thing a man can carry is a word he waited too long to say." The other man heard about Samuel, and the very next morning he drove 4 hours to sit across from his own estranged brother, and he said the thing, the awkward, overdue, frightening thing. The brother wept. They had 11 good years after that. 11 years he almost let the frost take. So I ask you, simply, gently, what is your unfinished sentence? Who is it owed to? The frost is not a threat I am making. It is only a season that is coming. Clear your field while the ground is warm. The 5th teaching. The dead are not gone while they are carried and named. Go and look at an old pine that has fallen in the forest. It lies there on the ground, and you would call it dead. But look closer at the trunk. There, rising out of the body of the old tree, a young seedling has taken root, drinking from the very wood that fell. The old tree does not vanish. It lies down, and it feeds what comes after. Its death is the seedling's life. They are the same tree wearing 2 seasons. A person can do that too, if the ones who remain are willing to carry them. In my family there was a man named Joseph. Joseph died long before I was born. I never saw his face, and yet I knew him, because at every table my grandmother set, his name was spoken. She would say, "Joseph would have laughed at that." Or, "Joseph always said this, do the hard thing first." By the time I was a man, Joseph had taught me a dozen things, and he had been in the ground for 40 years. That is not a ghost. That is a man still doing his work through the mouths of the people who loved him. My grandmother said the truest words I know on this. She said, "A person dies twice. Once when the breath stops, and once when the last person who remembers them falls silent. And the second death," she said, "you can hold off for 100 years simply by saying their name at the table. So say their names. Tell their stories to the children who never met them. Set their chair at the table in your speaking, even when it is empty in the room. As long as you carry them and name them, they are not gone. They have only changed the work they do. And one day, when your own breath has stopped, this is the second life you will be given, the long, quiet life lived in the mouths of the people who loved you. So be the kind of person worth carrying." The sixth teaching. You can meet your own passage unafraid. The leaf does not argue with the wind. When the day comes that it must fall, it does not cling and tear and make the whole branch ugly with its fear. It lets go, and it turns in the air, and for one moment it is more graceful in its falling than it ever was hanging on. That is the last thing a leaf teaches, how to let go without disgrace. The old ones did not see death as a punishment. They saw it as a turning of the season, no more cruel than autumn following summer, no more an insult than night following the day. You do not weep that the day ends. You trust that it is the way of things, and you rest. I will tell you about my grandmother at her own end. She was very old and very tired, and the night came when we all knew. I sat by her, and I was the one who was afraid, not her. I held her hand too tight, and she opened her eyes clear for a moment, and she felt my fear, and she said to me, "Child, do not grip me like that. I am not falling. I am only turning the way the leaf turns." She said, "I have had my summer. It was long and it was good. Let me have my autumn too." And she closed her eyes, and she met it the way the leaf meets the wind, without arguing, without disgrace. And I have not been the same kind of afraid since. Now let me gather these 6 teachings the way my grandmother gathered her herbs at the end of the day, tying them together so none is lost. Death is not the enemy. It is the teacher that gives every hour its weight. The fear of dying is the fear of not having lived, so live deeper, not faster. The body returns to the earth, but the love does not leave. It only changes the place where you find it. Finish the unfinished and say the unsaid before the frost comes, because the frost gives no warning. The dead are not gone while you carry their names to the table, and you can meet your own passage the way the leaf meets the autumn, turning, not falling. I am an old man now. I have buried more people than I can count on both hands, and I have stood close enough to the edge myself to feel the cold off the water. And I will tell you the honest truth. I am not afraid anymore. I am not in a hurry. Understand me. I love this world, the smell of rain on dust, the sound of a child laughing in the next room. I want my summer to last. But when the autumn comes for me, I will not grip the branch. I have learned from the leaf and from my grandmother and from every fire I ever watched return to the sky. I will turn loose, and I will turn gold on the way down, and I will trust the season that is older than I am. If these words sat with you tonight, I gathered all of them and 20 teachings more, the ones I could not say in one sitting, into a small book my family helped me make. It rests in the place below this video. There is no hurry. Take one teaching. Read it slow. Sit with it overnight and let it do its quiet work. And before you go, do one thing for me. In the quiet below, name the one person you carry inside you, the one whose name you keep alive at your table. Say it where I can see it. And if you wish to walk a little further with me, stay close and join us. You are part of the people who remember.